Hi, my name's Steve Parker and I'm one of the education officers working for Essex Fire and Rescue Service and Essex Police. And today we're going to be talking about some of the unique problems that occur during the summer months, which means that the fire service and the police remain extra busy. We have a number of unique topics which happen during the summer months which can cause young people problems. So we're going to go through these and talk about them and how we can make sure we stay safe. The first one we're going to talk about is fire, and obviously from a fire and rescue services perspective that is one where we are extremely busy. Now most of the fires that we have start in the summer months are due to the very dry conditions and young people playing with matches and lighters. And what I don't think young people really understand is how quickly a fire can spread and how quickly with dry conditions that fire can go on and engulf properties and endanger people's lives. So during the summer months it's really important that if you're going to light a fire outside it's done with proper supervision. So if you're part of perhaps a Duke of Edinburgh scheme or you're in the Scouts or the Guides, then you're going to have an adult there to help you. If you're just out with your mates perhaps fishing or you're out having a barbecue, then you have to remain extra vigilant and make sure that what you're starting, the fire that you're starting, is not going to go on and cause problems for other people. And also making sure that you put that fire out properly before you leave. Fire can spread very quickly, and I've been to numerous fires in my career that young people have started deliberately, which have gone on to cause major destruction and loss of life. So it is important to remember that matches and lighters are not toys and they're not something that you should be playing with. It's a criminal offence to deliberately start a fire, and you can be charged with arson, which is quite a serious crime, so it is important that we make sure that matches and lighters are not used in that way. I'm going to show you a short news clip now from some serious fires that we had started recently.
Wildfires have broken out around the UK as the heatwave sweeps across the country. This was the scene in East London this afternoon, where at least 100 firefighters have been battling to control two separate fires. Elsewhere, blazes have broken out as far afield as Dorset, South Wales, and up in North East Fife as well. This all comes after the Met Office warned of an elevated risk of fires as a result of the tinder dry conditions across the country. A hot spell is now Britain's longest heatwave for 7 years, and forecasters say temperatures are likely to be even higher next week. Also today, the Met Office increased its health warning to its highest second level along.
So even fires like this are often started by just one match or one lighter, okay? So make sure that you're extra vigilant this summer, especially if your adults are smoking cigarettes or you're using fires or barbecues outside, okay? Next thing we're going to be talking about is water and water safety, and unfortunately every summer we get a number of young people who are killed by drowning and other people who have to be rescued by the lifeboat and by the emergency services. So important things to remember about water. The water must be much colder than you think, and we're going to watch a short film about that in a minute. But one of the things you need to be aware is that even if it's a really hot day, the water temperature is going to be extremely cold, a lot colder than your body core temperature. And if you fall into that cold water, your body's going to go into something called cold water shock, which means you're going to start gasping. And while you're doing that, and that is an uncontrollable thing that your body does, it is very difficult to try and swim because you've got the chance of inhaling water, and that can cause you some serious problems. So as the film's going to describe, it's best to try and float on your back while you're going through that initial 60 to 90 seconds of your body adjusting its temperature until you're able to relax slightly and then swim to safety. Diving and jumping in, again a lot of accidents with young people, broken backs, broken necks. If you're jumping into something, you need to know the depth of it, because if you hit the bottom, that can give you severe spinal injuries and cause paralysis. So if you're jumping off a jetty, or if you're on holiday and you're jumping into somewhere that you don't know, make sure that you know what's under the water. There may be underwater obstructions in there. And also if the tide's going out, make sure that you're aware of the depth of the water when you're jumping in, okay? If you're at a swimming baths, around the edge of the baths, they will have the depth of the swimming pool. Often one end will say no diving or jumping because that is the area that's shallowest, and you've got the chance of hitting the bottom. So if there is a diving area, it will have the depth of the water written on the side of the pool. So make sure you're aware of that before you start jumping in. Rivers and sea can flow very quickly. Every year we get people get caught in rip currents and in water that is moving quickly in rivers and streams. Even if you're a strong swimmer, that can cause you some serious problems trying to swim against a rip. And anyone who's been caught in a rip will know it's very, very worrying and very, very scary when that happens. Okay, so try it, and even if you're a strong swimmer, to stay in your depth. That means if you get out of trouble, you can get your feet on the bottom. Okay, and it might sound fun to swim out to that boat with your mates, but if you get into trouble halfway out there and you're not a strong swimmer and perhaps getting in a current, you can very quickly get yourself into trouble. Try not to swim on your own. So if you're out with your mates and you're going out to the beach for the day, try and have someone you go out with. Keep an eye on each other. Okay, obviously we're not going to be swimming in areas that we don't know because of that tidal problem. And the water may be polluted, especially if you're swimming in reservoirs and lakes. I think there's a famous place called the Blue Lagoon, which has got a really high chemical content in the water, and yet every year young people go in there. So know what the water is that you're going into to swim in, and make sure you're not going to get sick because of it. Okay. Watch a short film now about staying safe in the water.
There were four of us. Me, Tom, Charlie and Sam. Always hang out together. Always around each other's houses, usually playing COD on the Xbox. Anyways, it was during that warm weather we had, remember? Pure sun day after day. Probably why we were where we were. Down by the river. You know what it's like, those places. Always seem better, don't they, when it's hot outside? Charlie said Bella and Holly were going to meet us down there. But shocked the girls were a no-show. Typical Charlie, thinks he's a legend. Always making out like someone fancies him. Still, we were down there, so we thought we may as well hang around for a bit. That's when Tom had one of his usual stupid ideas. Get us to swim across the river. To be honest, for him it didn't seem that stupid. The river's not that wide, and you can see the bottom in loads of places. So I said, go on then. I know, what a muppet. Can't resist the challenge, me. So I ditched the trainers in the shorts. Didn't want to get them wet, my mum would kill me. Left the shirt on though. This one. Didn't think the water would reach up that far. Thing is though, water's always deeper than it looks. Suddenly I couldn't feel the bottom anymore. It went straight under, whoosh. Water went into my mouth too. That's when I really started to panic. Really lost it. Guess that was my second mistake. Thing is, water looks like a great place to cool off, but just under the surface it isn't cool, it's just freezing. Makes your fingers go funny, like you're losing control. Then there's the current. It's like trying to drag you down and you get your feet all tangled up in the weeds and it's almost impossible to get out. Which is why I didn't get out.
Okay, really pertinent point there. Don't get in as you might not get out. And again, if you find someone in trouble in the water, perhaps try to reach with them a stick, throw them a rope. If there's something nearby that you can throw to them, maybe a rescue ring, that might be a good idea. But if you get in as well, even if you think you are a strong swimmer, then you've got the chance that you yourself might get into trouble. And a lot of that isn't because you're not a good swimmer, it's because of that cold water shock. So we can have a watch of a film now about what to do if you do get that cold water shock, because if you wait for maybe a couple of minutes until your body's used to the temperature, then there's a good chance you'll be able to swim to safety, okay? does work, so just try to get yourself relaxed in the water, and that's going to be the most difficult thing if you've fallen into that cold water. But I've seen films where Olympic gold medalists have tried this in cold water, and even they can't swim for that initial time until their body has come into regulate its temperature. So important piece of information there. If you do get yourself into trouble, just try and relax. It's going to be difficult to do that, and try and get up, starfish, just float on your back just until your breathing gets regulated. Okay. A little bit of beach and sun safety now. We all like to go down the beach this time of year. Drink regularly, especially for young people. You're having a good fun, you're laughing, you're playing football maybe, you're running around, you're losing a lot of water through perspiration. If you think you're thirsty, it's already too late. Okay, so keep sipping, keep drinking, plenty of water right throughout the day, and that's going to keep you well hydrated. Trying to prevent sunburn, get that sunscreen on, high factor. Okay, it is a myth that if you burn you're going to go brown. Okay, if you burnt, your skin's already damaged. So high factor sun cream, the higher the number, the safer your skin's going to be in the sun. You can also wear a wide brimmed hat and try and stay out of the sun during those hottest parts of the day between 11 and 3 o'clock. Stay in the shade there and try wearing, as I say, a wide brimmed hat to keep that sun off your head. Okay, some great advice there. You're going out on the beach, try and swim at a lifeguarded beach where possible. You'll see the lifeguards on the beach, and you'll also see the flags, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The current on the beach is the dangerous thing. If you don't know the beach and you're swimming in an area that's got a rip current, that means that the water is being pushed away from the beach. It can take you out of your depth very quickly, and you can end up in a bit of trouble. So don't swim alone again. So get someone to keep an eye on you. Inflatables again. They are great fun, boats, rubber rings, stuff like that. But again, if those currents are taking you out to sea, people get rescued from the lifeboat every year because of those inflatables. So I'd rather you didn't use them in the sea, keep those for the swimming pools. But if you are going to use them in the sea and you get pushed out of your depth, then don't get off of it. Don't leave the inflatable to try and swim back to the beach, okay? Plenty of noise, plenty of waving. Someone will come and call the lifeboat to come and rescue you, okay? But stay with that inflatable because it's the thing that's going to keep you safe. Just keep an eye on that tide, okay? I live in an area where people walk out to see an old World War II wreck, and every year the tide comes in behind them and they need to be rescued by the RNLI. So keep an eye behind you. If you turn up at a beach and you're not aware of the tide and you walk out to the water, just keep an eye over your shoulder because that tide can come in and cut you off very, very quickly, okay? Always swim between the red and yellow flags on a beach. Not all beaches have a flag system, but if they've got lifeguards there, they will have. Easy way to remember it, red and yellow flags mean lifeguards are on patrol and you should swim or boogie board in the area between the flags. So they're the bits. Now, if you're out in the sea, keep an eye going back towards the beach because quite often the tide may push you outside those areas. You will get the lifeguards on there, always giving you a shout if you've gone outside those areas. Red flag means it's dangerous to bathe or swim and you should not go into the water. So don't swim if there's a red flag flying. And if you go down somewhere where there's a bit of surfing, perhaps Dorset, southwest or down Cornwall Way, you may see that quartered black and white flag, which is an area for Malibu boards, so surfers. And again, if you swim in those areas, you can get yourself in a bit of trouble with regards getting hit by one of those surfboards, okay? Next thing we're going to be talking about is the railway, and railway lines are not places to go and play. Now, as a fire officer, if I want to go onto the railway lines, I have to make sure that all the electricity is turned off, the train stopped running and the power is off. Again, every year we get young people thinking that the railway lines are places that they can go and play. Extremely dangerous. So with the railways, please don't ignore the railway signs, don't trespass near the railway, and that electricity is 100 times more powerful than that you'd get in your home. If you're on a railway line, this is what you'd see. If you had gone through that fence, there's always a fenced area around railway lines, this is what you'd see, and to the untrained eye that doesn't look too dangerous. Bearing in mind you've got live rails, so this rail here, the third rail is carrying 750 volts, and if you touch that, there's a good possibility that you're going to be killed or seriously injured, okay? Even if it hasn't got a live rail, it's got the pantograph there with the overhead lines, 25,000 volts, and other cables and boxes which carry high voltage electricity. So please do not go on the lines. We will have trains running from the British Transport Police again this year, which will run up and down the lines. Often they have no passengers on, just police officers, and they're looking out for young people on those railway lines, and they will be arrested for trespass if they get caught. So please don't make sure that you're not one of those people. Short film now. It may be that you're going on holiday and you're going to go to unmanned crossings, perhaps level crossings which are not manned. There are some in Essex, and it is about using the same code that you would crossing the road to make sure that no trains are coming before you use those crossings.
I spy with my little eye something beginning with T.
Is it a tractor?
No.
Tree.
No. Is it a train? No.
Is it a tyre?
No.
Is it Teddy?
No. It has to be a tree. We've had that. Do you give up?
Yes, I do.
Wait. Is it track?
Distractions can cost you your life. See track, think train.
So again, keeping an eye on that. Using the similar things you would crossing the road. Obviously in the summer months, people are out more and more, so we do have some road safety problems during the summer. It's about making sure that you can be seen and that you're using your green cross code to cross the road correctly, as you would with the railway line now. Going on to the police perspective, there is an increase in burglaries of residential properties during the summer months, simply because people do not shut their doors and windows when they go out. Also, perhaps if you're taking your bike out of the shed to go over the park with your friends, you might not lock the garage up, and there are opportunist burglars out there looking for those opportunities to break into properties that aren't secure. So if you are going out, bear in mind one out of 10 burglaries accesses going to property through an open window or door. Keep valuables out of view. That could be smartphones, mobile devices, home entertainment systems. That's not just in your house, that's if you're going out with your adults in the cars, so make sure the windows are shut, but don't leave things like sat-navs, your mobile phone, your tablet on a seat, because they will just smash the window and steal it. The alarm will go off, but they'll be long gone down the road. And always lock those garden gates, garages and sheds, we have particular problems with garage thefts and shed thefts at this time of the year, often for people to steal stuff to sell at things like boot sales. So do keep an eye on all of those. Store tools and ladders away so they can't be used to aid burglars. Don't leave the keys outside the property, and this is a lot of problems we have with young people. If you're going to the beach with your mates, if you're going out, it's quite easy to think, well, I'm going to lose my keys, how am I going to get in? Your adults are perhaps at work, and it's easy to stick that key under a mat or behind a gate, so you've got access to it, or maybe with brothers and sisters have got access to one key. Burglars know this, and they're looking for those opportunities to gain easy access to your property. So make sure you don't leave those keys outside. Use outdoor lighting and CCTV to deter burglars. So all stuff that we should be thinking about all the time regarding our summer security. We used to have problems with people taking names and addresses from cases at airports and houses being burgled. You've got a problem now with social media. Guess whose house is going to be empty for the next 2 weeks? Bragging you're heading off to Sun or on social media, you could be giving burglars information about when your house is empty. So yeah, we're having a great time abroad, or we're having a great time on holiday in this country. Sorry I can't make your party on Saturday, John, but we're not all back till Tuesday. It's an open invite on social media for burglars to access your property, okay? So please don't advertise on social media, and it can invalidate some house insurance policies if you're advertising on social media that your property is going to be empty, okay? So think about that when you're away. By all means, post those stuff online when you're home, or better still, in a private forum with just your friends have got access to. Let's have a great summer. Okay, so there we go. Some real helpful tips there for this summer for making sure that you stay safe. This is Steve Parker for Essex Fire and Rescue Service and Essex Police, wishing you a fantastic summer holiday. Thank you.